Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. There is a list in the Visuddhimagga of the 40 traditional meditations, and some of them are well known today, such as mindfulness of breathing, the Brahma Viharas, and so on, often talked about. I'd like to talk about one of these meditations that's maybe less well known generally, and I think it's a very powerful one, very suitable for these times, and that is Contemplation of Dewas, Devanusati. There are the subgroup of the 40 meditations that are anusatis, or contemplations. There's contemplation of the Buddha, the Dhamma, the Sangha, Dewas, and virtue. These particular type of meditation is, I would say, a disciplined use of the imagination faculty, using deliberate visualization and imagination to bring up certain images and feelings. In other schools of Buddhism, this visualization exercises are very common. In Tibetan Buddhism, it's a very central practice. Various meditations that are visualizations of deities, of bodhisattvas, and other kind of celestial beings. And in that tradition, in Tibetan tradition, the exercise is to visualize very precisely a particular deity, and they have long descriptions. The mudra that the deity is holding its hands in, and maybe objects like a lotus or a bell or various other objects that they're holding, and the colors of the garments, and often the deities will have unusual features like multiple arms. So there's very detailed descriptions that one is supposed to visualize in the mind. One of the exercises that I've heard that they do with these visualizations is the yogi will go into a long retreat and work on this visualization every day, and at the end they have to paint an image, a thangka, of this deity, and the master checks it to make sure every detail is perfect. In Zen Buddhism, there's a visualization, or I don't know quite if you call it a visualization, but there's an exercise of recalling all your teachers all the way back to the Buddha, and they keep details like genealogies of who taught who. And a Tibetan version of this is to visualize your teacher floating above your head, and then his teacher above his head, and so on, all the way up to the Buddha. So in the Theravada version, in visualization of, or recollection, or contemplation of Dewas, Devanusati, one contemplates the various Dewa realms through the list of the six, then make it 7 by including the Brahma realm, and one could go further and take the higher Brahma realms as well. And this has a number of benefits. One is to experience more refined levels of consciousness. You're bringing your mind into the psychic space of Dewas, So you're elevating your consciousness or subtilizing it above the coarse material level, bringing a degree of refinement into the mind. Another benefit is the rousing up of the state of joy, pamoja or sukha, bringing in this brightening quality of joy into the mind, because these realms are realms of happiness. You're separating yourself imaginatively from the coarser experience of the human realm and allowing the natural tendency of the mind, when it's not fettered by defilements and negativity, the mind has a natural tendency to open to joy and bliss. And you're just helping it to do that. It also brings forward brightness, illumination, radiance, whatever you want to call it. The Dewas are beings of light. The word Dewa can be traced to an old root, div, which is sometimes rendered as the shining ones. So this is another inherent quality of the mind, as stated in the Anguttara Nikaya, that the mind in its natural state is void and illuminated, or luminous. Also, it brings up a feeling of vastness. This is a concept that's made much of in Zen Buddhism. The idea of vastness is when the mind is not bound or fettered to a limited plane, it opens up into boundlessness. In Pali, there's the word apamana, without bound or without limit, and this is the same kind of idea. And if attempting to contemplate these levels of mind, of being, the meditator should not be concerned or hindered by concerns about how much of it is literally real, literally true. I think that's a very pedestrian kind of a question. It doesn't really matter ultimately. For one reason, the definition of what is real is uncertain. There's a very good question to be had about how much of this experience of the ordinary human realm is real in any metaphysical or ontological sense. Now, unless you're certain of what is real and what is not at this level of existence, then it's idle to speculate about other levels. I think the most we could say is that the mind is capable of expressing itself in many different modes and levels than what we consider ordinary. And we can consider that there may be beings that dwell inherently in those higher planes of existence. And they have been described in different ways in different traditions. We may as well use the classical Theravada descriptions. They're as good as any other. An attempt to express the experience of these higher levels of existence. So having made these few comments by way of kind of introduction, I'll talk a bit about the different realms of the Dewas. Dewas in general is a term to refer to a class of beings that are considered metaphysically higher than human, in that they are more longer lived, more glorious, and enjoy greater happiness than human beings. And they're classified into different grades that dwell at different levels. There are Dewas that are considered to be part of this earth level experience, the Bhuma Dewas and the Walaka Dewas. The Bhuma Dewas are Dewas that live in forests and places like that, that could be considered equivalent in Western mythology of like fairies or elves. And their Walaka Dewas are Dewas that dwell in the sky, like cloud Dewas, that have to do with the weather. This level we're not really concerned with in terms of Devanusati. We're looking at the celestial Dewas that dwell in the heaven realms. They're higher levels of being. And these are divided into six planes or levels. The first two are connected somewhat to this earthly plane, in that they're considered to dwell on Mount Sinnaru, which is the mythical mountain at the center of the world. So in visualizing the Dewas of the four great kings and the Dewas of the 33, Chatum Maharajaka and Tawatingsa, it's necessary to visualize this gigantic four-sided mountain that's at the center of the world. And there's a wonderful symmetry in this kind of mythical geography, in that around this mountain there are rings of alternating sea and mountain. 7 such rings, each one half as high as the preceding one. So it's kind of like a resonant frequencies going out from the center. And the human dwelling is off in a wee island, off in the outermost ocean. So it's very insignificant in terms of this picture. The lowest level of Dewas are the Chatu Maharajaka, which are the Dewas of the four great kings. And this is the level that protects the world. They are the guardians or protectors, the watchmen of the world, these four great kings, one for each direction. And you'll see this is very important motif in East Asian Buddhism. You'll see temples will often have these carved images or statues in the corners of these fierce warrior-looking figures wielding swords and taking martial arts kind of poses. And these are considered like these are the four great kings. And they're guarding and protecting against all kinds of negative, demonic, or lower energies. There host a multitude of lesser Dewas that serve the four great kings and are in their retinue, that are part of this level. And they also have other fantastic beings that are in their service. These include Nagas, the great serpent beings, and Supanas, the gigantic birds, as well as yakas, these kind of ogre-like beings, and kambandas that are very odd, bizarre little dwarves whose most salient characteristic are enormous testicles. So these are all kind of like representations of lower energies that have been tamed and put into the service of the Dhamma. They become lokapalas, protectors. And the four great kings are their rulers. So this is the very base, the foundation stone of the heavens, as a guardian ring of protection against the lower energies like the asuras that are always trying to burst in. At the top of Mount Sinnaru dwells the heaven of the 33, Tawatingsa. And in the descriptions of Tawatingsa, which are quite extensive, this is the realm that's talked about most in the texts. And when you hear about Dewas or heavens, and it's not specified, it's generally referring to Tawatingsa. And the salient characteristic that always comes up again and again is the wondrous beauty. So the characteristic of the four great kings is protection or guardianship. And the characteristic here is beauty and delight. Description of the palaces and the dwelling places, the gardens and parks, the trees. There's a particular tree, the Parichataka tree, that is the great tree of this level, that has beautiful flowers that fall from the tree in a special time every 100 years, and the Dewas have a festival of playing and dancing underneath the tree. And the Dewas themselves are very beautiful. They have beautiful forms and faces, and they sing and dance. And it's a place of delight and wonder. The ruler of this realm is Saka, who sits on his rose-colored stone throne and overlooks the whole world down below. He's the ruler of all he surveys. It's called the realm of the 33 because there's a council of 33 gods that rule this realm under the leadership of Saka. So this level, I think in terms of like the history of mythology, this is the equivalent of the pantheon of gods in other Indo-European cultures, like the Olympias of the Greece and Asgard of the Norse. It comes from the same ancient tradition. Now, the peak of Mount Sinnaru is 84,000 yojanas high, and we still have an additional 4 heavens above that are in space, and each one is twice as high above sea level. So there's again a raising of resonant frequencies. So the next heaven, which is not connected in any way to the earth, but floats in space, is 84,000 yojanas above the peak of Sinnaru. And this is the heaven of Yama. There's actually very little said about this realm, but it's said that this is a place marked by happiness, content, and peacefulness. This is the first level not connected to the troubles of the earth. So the Dewas, even of Tawatingsa, are occasionally called to war against the Asuras, but the Dewas of Yama live completely at peace. So this salient characteristic here is contentedness or peacefulness. And each of these heavens, from Tawatingsa upwards, each of these heavens are like a refinement or a subtilization of the one below. They all have the same basic layout and geography. There's a Nandana grove, the grove of delight, which is like a central park of great beauty, and each one is more refined and beautiful than the one below. They all have palaces and vamanas, or dwelling places of the gods. And they all have a ruler. The ruler is Saka, then in the Yama kingdom it's Sayama. So this is a refinement of the Tawatingsa realm, in that there's a greater degree of happiness because there's a complete separation from troubles and toils and the worrisomeness of the coarser material realms below. It's a place of pure content. Then at a distance twice as high again, or 168,000 yojanas above sea level. No, I'm sorry, that's wrong, because Yama would be 168,000 yojanas. The next one, Tusita, is twice that again, so it's no, I'm not going to do the math in my head, but it's twice as high. This is Tusita, and this is again even more delightful, more wonderful. And this place has the special characteristic in the Buddhist cosmos of being the dwelling place of the coming Buddha, who in our time is the Bodhisattva who will become Metteyya Buddha, who is going to be the last Buddha of this world age, and he's going to be the Buddha that is particularly remarked for compassion, expression of compassion. So this level has a characteristic of compassion or loving kindness. There's an outflowing here, a benevolence extended to the universe from this place. It's a level that many Asian Buddhists, Theravada Buddhists, will, particularly in Sri Lanka, that they'll make an aspiration to be reborn in this realm so they can be in the presence of Metteyya Buddha. So it's also a place of Dhamma and of enlightenment and illumination. Then twice as high again as that. So now you can visualize in your mind it's kind of double steps. So we're getting very, very far up into space. Is the realm of Nimanarati Dewas, those who delight in creation. And this is yet again a subtilization. And here the characteristic is creation. These Dewas play with manifestation. Their existence or experience is like one continuous lucid dream. That they have power to manifest with their mind whatever they wish. So they create the world. They're like artists who dwell with this power of manifestation, that constantly playing with forms. They can change their own shape and color and size. They can create dwelling places and chariots and whatever they wish. So it's like here the restrictions and boundaries of manifest form have become very much loosened. Well, for anybody lower than this level, manifestation and form are more or less fixed and are things that can only be worked upon with labor to change and create. Here, it's just a play of the mind. They have this great freedom. Then very, very remote, as far away again, twice as high again, is the last of the sensual heavens. This is the realm of the Vasawati Nimarati, or just Vasawati. These are the beings who delight in the creation of others. Or Vasawati by itself, it just means the rulers, or those who wield power. So the characteristic of this level is power, or rulership, or sovereignty. These are the supreme level within the sensual desire realm. And their existence is so refined, they don't even make an effort to create anything for themselves. The beings of the layer below, the Nimanarati beings, create for them. And they intuit what these beings might desire to please them. It says, just as the chief cook for the king doesn't ask the king, what would you like for dinner today? But he intuits what the king might like and prepares a dish. So these beings are served by those below. So this is a kind of an interesting contemplation of that at the very peak and summit of the sense desire realm, these beings who wield power, the Vasawati beings, one way of looking at them is they're just dwelling in a kind at the peak of sensuality. This is as high as you can go in the sensual realm. They live in a kind of useless, you could say, dependent existence. And this is the very limit of sensuality. This is as subtle as it goes. And this continues through the Dewa realms, that there's an increasing subtlety. The sensuality becomes less material, less coarse, less gross, and more ethereal, kind of refined. This is the last level of existence in which beings have separate genders, male and female. And their experience of pleasure with each other is simply gazing into each other's eyes. So this is as high as one can go in the sensual desire realm. And then beyond that are the realms of the Brahma beings. In spatial terms, they're said to be extremely remote, beyond easy expression in dimensions. One text says that if from the lowest Brahma realm, if you were to drop an anvil, it would take 3 months to hit the earth. I did consider trying to work that out, but the math would be very tricky, and you'd be getting which of course is completely would have been completely unknown to the ancient authors. But if you dropped a solid object and it accelerated at one gravity, after some time it would start to approach relativistic speeds, and the math would become even more complicated. So it's no point in trying to figure it out. It's just the idea is it's extremely remote. And the Brahma gods are something that is very useful and worthwhile to contemplate, the existence of a Brahma god, because this is the equivalent of jhana. And this is a level of existence that's entirely unbound by sensuality. The Brahma being has no sense of taste or smell or touch. They only have sight and sound as functional senses. They don't have genders. There's no male nor female there. They are all just reckoned as beings. They don't eat food of any sort. The Dewas have a very refined food called Suddha Bhojana, like ambrosia of the gods, but the Brahmas don't eat. They feed on internally generated jhanic bliss. And here's where the expression of vastness really comes into play, because the vast expanse that's encompassed by the mind of a Brahma is incredible. Below the Brahmas, they can perceive hundreds of thousands of world systems. So all the worlds are laid out below them. Each one with its Mount Sinnaru and its array of heavens above, and its mountains and its islands. The Brahmas are not subject to hindrances. They're not subject to desire or ill will. Going higher yet than the level of the first Brahmas are the second level Brahmas of the Abhisara beings. And below each Abhisara realm, there are 10,000 first level Mahabrahma realms, each of which has thousands of earthly realms below it. So this vastness is increasing as we go up. They encompass a huge, huge zone of space. These beings experience great happiness, such that they're constantly crying out, Aho Sukho, oh the bliss, oh the bliss. Their name refers to their radiance, which is brilliant, but it flickers like a torch. And they're so full of this rapturous happiness that they don't have qualities of vitaka vichara. They don't have thought conception or speech. They dwell in a state of constant ecstatic happiness. Above them are the Subhakina Brahmas. And again, likewise, below them are 10,000 Abhisara Brahma realms, below each one of these. So as we go higher, we're encompassing a greater vastness of space below. And these beings have an even more brilliant radiance that does not flicker, but is steady like that of the full moon. And they don't experience ecstatic happiness, but profound bliss, a great, peaceful, unending, blissful state of being. And this is said to be the greatest happiness experienced anywhere in the cosmos. Then above these are the beings of the Wetpapala, or the great fruit, is a direct translation. And these beings have transcended even bliss and dwell in profound equanimity. And the entire physical cosmos is laid out below them. So they have within their range of vision, they have the entire cosmos. So they're seeing world systems coming and going. Their lifespan is so long, they see all the worlds below flickering in and out of existence. And they take it all with this profound equanimity. This is as things are. Indeed, if you contemplate this, how could a being that is cognizant of this entire vast range of existence, how could they not be equanimous? The coming into being and the passing out of being is all of one to them. Above this level, there are the 5 heavens of the Pure Lands, where anagamis are reborn. This is, and the very top of this, the very highest one of these is Akanata, nothing beyond. There's the very peak of physical existence. But there's also, outside of space, there are also 4 additional levels of being, the formless realms. The realm of boundless or infinite space, realm of infinite consciousness, the realm of nothingness, and the realm of neither perception nor non-perception. Each of which is a further refinement or a further simplification of existence. If you consider back to the realm of the Vihapala beings, the Brahmas of equanimity, that contemplate the vastness of space below them, the existence simply of space without reference to world systems or beings, boundless space, is the first of the formless realms. And here there is only mind filling the infinity of space. But if we simplify that further and allow mind to exist without reference to space, then you have the realm of boundless consciousness. Then the beings higher than that take no reference point at all. And this is the realm of nothingness. But even the idea of nothingness remains as a kind of subtle concept. So beyond that, even there's the realm of neither perception nor non-perception. And this level, we could say, is samsara reduced to its absolute minimum. You can't get any more refined or subtle than this and still be in existence. So returning to the idea of taking this as a contemplation, the traditional way to do it is to go through the various realms, beginning with the realm of the four great kings, as high as the level of the first Brahmas, contemplating each level. And this brings the mind through a series of stages to increasing subtlety, increasing illumination, increasing vastness or openness. And as a further refinement, one can go through the levels of the Brahma gods and the formless. It can also be done after going up as high as you wish, either to the Brahma gods or to the fourth level Brahmas, or all the way into the formless. Then you can turn around and bring it back stage by stage, as if coming into manifestation, bringing the higher states of illumination down through the levels. Then if you bring it up again as far as the Tushita heaven and end by turning that into a contemplation of loving kindness or compassion, letting that boundless energy flow out to benefit all sentient beings. So that's a brief description of this practice, and use it as you like or not. It is one of the traditional contemplations. In this talk, I kept it to the traditional way of practice. I have spoken previously about ways of integrating it with the seven chakras. That's another variation of this that can be useful. So I'll offer that for reflection.